Hello everyone, welcome to the NOSP event here in Stavanger, and welcome to everyone that is following us live on YouTube. First of all, thank you to all our sponsors, which you see on this screen. It's a lot of companies, and we would not be able to host these events if it's not for you guys. So we appreciate all the sponsors that we have, and we always welcome any new companies. Yeah, so this is the board. So I'm here together with Odd here from UTEC and Ricardo from NOSP. And my name is Alexander, and I work for Aker BP. There might be another board member coming in soon to be announced. And this is the schedule for the rest of the year. So the 11th of June, we will be in Bergen. And if anybody wants to present, please get in touch with one of us or with Stuart. The 3rd of September, we will have presentations at the Subsea Innovation Day in Åkrehamn. And that is always a very popular event. So we encourage people to, of course, join all these events. Then it will be in Oslo, the 24th of September. Bergen again, 15th of October. And then we will have the yearly dinner here the last Thursday in November. Venue to be confirmed. And with that, we get to tonight. So the theme for tonight is from capture to insight. And I think we will enjoy the three presentations. So first, it will be UTEC with Greg. Then it will be Subsea scanning with Josh over there. And finally, it will be AkerSolutions and Toponor with Robert back there, and Ricardo from Toponor. So we will then do 2 presentations, then we will have a half-an-hour break to mingle and get to know each other, and then finish off with the AkerSolutions and Toponor. So with that, I would like to welcome Greg. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Evening, yeah, that's the right thing, isn't it? I'm from UTEC, Action. I'm the Europe and Africa digital lead. My name's Greg Hammond. I think from the introduction that you saw there, I'm on the insight bit of this evening's presentation from that point of view. So I've worked with Action now for over 21 years for my sins, and in that time I've worked in various roles within the business, but I think there's been a common thread of data management, data delivery. How as a business, as an industry, can we do that better? So for about 15 of those years, I've been working with operators predominantly to try and see how we can deliver information smarter and better. And today's discussion, I'm going to touch more on the subsea world rather than the topside world, which is where our technology began. So what the plan for today is that I'll just do one very quick slide on Action for any of yours who are not aware of who we are. And then I'll go on and talk about the technology that we're using to support this. I've then got some examples of applications. I'm going to use offshore wind and some pipeline inspection data as examples for this particular presentation. And then I've done a screen record of the technology. It's difficult to do PowerPoint slides on something that's just a software solution, if you know what I mean. So I'll try and show you a little bit of the technology, which maybe helps as well. And hopefully as we go through this, it becomes apparent on, what I'm trying to achieve from that point of view. And I'd welcome any comments or criticisms as we go along. So a little bit about Action. So Action really is across the whole project life cycle, as you can see there, from site investigation all the way through to life extension and decommissioning. UTEC Geo-services, one of the 3 business lines within the group, focuses heavily on the kind of site investigation, characterization, construction support, survey element. I'm sure you're aware of us probably. And likewise, you're probably aware of some of our other parts of the business, Intermore with the anchors and chains from that point of view, and Menk, big offshore hammers and drills, basically. And then as a group, we are supported by 2H, who's our engineering consultants. That's kind of who we are from that point of view, for any of you who were not aware. So I think, as I mentioned, I've worked in the digital side of this industry for about 15 years. And I think my sole purpose in life has been to convince people that hard drives, spreadsheets, and SharePoint is not the future. But I'm getting some success, as you can see. We work with some very good partners, really. And I use the word partners because Shell has been with us for 15 years and is still going strong now with the Adura partnership with Equinor as well. So we're clearly doing something right, and our technology started on the top side, managing laser scanning data, making it available so people could access it, visualize it, download it for engineering, and then you bring in 3D models, and then you connect to maintenance systems and document management systems, and before you know it, you've got a digital twin, which is the key word that everybody uses these days for everything, very much like AI and things like that. So that's where it all began. But of course, Action as a business operates below the waterline predominantly. So it was kind of a natural progression that our technology should diversify to manage that. And I've had some conversations today with a few individuals, and people have said, yeah, it's really funny, this whole digital twin thing, it's always above the water, it's never below the water. We're not really managing the information very well that we capture below the waterline. We capture a lot of it, and we're using a lot more technology now. We're using laser scanners and photogrammetry systems, and we're getting more and more data, but then we deliver it in a report or a PDF or we're wasting all of this data. And then I tell you what, 5 years down the lane, maybe less, someone else is paid to capture exactly that same data again because they don't know where it is. And that's what I'm trying to convince the industry there's better ways of doing things. So some of you are aware of myself. So the technology that we have, that we developed at Actin, is called iSight. It's a software as a service solution, which is the fancy name. So it's basically a cloud-based platform, and it is accessed simply through a web browser. There is no software required. And I think that's one of the key cornerstones of the technology and why we've developed it, because it has to be accessible to everyone. There can't be any limitations on that, which means it's available on a desktop, it's available on a mobile device, and it's got to be intuitive. If it's really difficult to control and manage and understand, then it's going to fail because no one's going to use it. So it's got to be simple to use and readily accessible from that point of view. And they're really the key areas that we focus on with the technology. Data storage is always a good question that I get a lot of. We've got everyone has to have smart data storage. We've got very scalable petabytes of storage, and we've been talking with operators who've got nearly a petabyte of ROV video from the last 15-20 years, and they're like, how do we get that now on the cloud? You know what I mean? And you need about a petabyte of storage to put all of that on. Conversations like, I've got a room of hard drives and the cable that fits inside that hard drive is not going to fit in it very long because it's going to be out of date or non-existent. What are we going to do with this data, if you know what I mean? Do we still need it? I guess there's a question of that as well. So, the technology is there from that point of view. We're very lucky. we have a technology provider who basically is not the main Azure AWS type provider who will not charge us for accessing the data, will not charge us for downloading the data. So all they charge us for is the actual storage itself, if you know what I mean, which means it's far easier to go to a client and say, it doesn't matter how many times you want to download this, view this, play with it, your bill at the end of the month or the end of the year, it's going to be exactly the same. Controlling your costs, that's what everybody wants to hear from that point of view. And the data actually in the storage is always hot, as you can see there. And there is some interesting moves in the industry now. Some of the tier one contractors are asking UTEC to deliver the data now not on hard drives. It's like, oh my God, hallelujah. Put it on the cloud, make it easier so we don't need to send hundreds of hard drives around the world all the time whilst we move data. So we are moving in the right direction from that point of view, which is really good. And I've got the phrase there, which I guess is a kind of phrase of a single pane of glass, but it's very true. What we're trying to do is we're trying to provide the end clients, predominantly the operators, the ability to make informed decisions on their assets, either above or below the waterline through one single platform. That's what we're trying to do. So I've got some examples, as I say, to try and demonstrate the technology without demonstrating the technology, which is always tricky from that point of view. So it wants to try to show you how we're trying to make this intuitive and simple, and hopefully you can understand the direction that we're going in here. So this crazy spider's web that you're seeing here is actually an offshore wind farm. I've got an offshore substation on the kind of right middle, the red one. And then there's wind turbine generators all the way around it, and then the inter-array cables, obviously just a kind of a depiction of the field. When our client logs into this site, because what we're doing is balance of plant surveys, for those of you who are aware of that. So basically it's just surveying the inter-array cables for depth of burial, doing ROV inspections on the monopiles and things like that. So they just call it balance of plant. They do it above the waterline, up to the transition piece where the turbine comes as well. So it's both above and below the waterline. We get the data in, and then what we're doing is we're presenting this data back completely through the platform. We don't give them reports are there, but they interact with the delivery system as being the platform. And the idea of this is that it's a health check for their assets. So come on in. So the whole idea is that when you log in, you want to know what's good and, more importantly, what's not good with your asset, because that's the whole idea of doing inspections and regulatory work. So simply put, if it's green, it's good. If it's grey, it's not been inspected, because you only do 30% inspections every year. And if it's yellow, orange or red, it's a factor of not good, if you know what I mean, from that point of view. So immediately you can see what's going on in your field. You can then drill down and find that information very quickly. You don't need to go through a 150-page report to find the answer that you're looking for. It's just stirring you out there, because you get to click, view the information and go from there. And that's supported with statistical information, and in this particular example, EX exposures of the inter-array cable are the major problem on this particular wind farm. The rock dumps are not really covering up the cable protection system as it enters the J tubes from that point of view coming in, no problem. So you can see there now you're starting to build up commonality, failures, problems, and you start to be able to make more informed decisions because you're providing the data in a smart way. And to that effect, staying on offshore wind, you know, how do you get better visibility and information of the data that you're capturing? You know, we're capturing multi-beam data, subsea, cable information, and how do we present that in a way that is just easy and intuitive? So I had red lines on my inter-array cables. Why are they red? Well, they're red because clearly depth of burial is a problem. I can provide a big spreadsheet that gives you all of the KPs and the depth of the cable as it runs along the length. Or I could just simply put it into an interface where you're looking at the multi-beam in a GIS interface, and then you've obviously got the cable. The cable can be selected at any point, and you can get the depth of burial and the KPs and everything that you want. But far easier than that is just to set some rules in the system by talking to the operator. So if it's deeper than a meter, they don't care. If it's less than a meter, they start to care. And if it's less than 600 mil, they really start to care. And it won't take anybody in this room a few seconds to determine where there may be a problem on this cable on the screen right here. So it's as simple as that. And then what we've done in the top right hand corner is we can actually then look at the DTM data. We can look at the multi-beam data that's being gathered, which I'll show you in the video later on, which makes sense as well. So we've got the inter-array cable obviously below the seabed, although it's not easy to see that on this particular screen. We've decided to take a longitudinal cross-section through the cable in the same way that you would do with charting that you get. This is almost like an interactive chart, and you can see there the profile of the cable, and where I've zoomed in, and particularly to the left of that little black box there, you'll see that this is not a seabed issue. This is not a scour issue. The seabed is not eroding away. The cable's actually been installed probably wrong to start with. Either the trenches didn't go right, or they hit boulders or rocks or something. The 300mm cover that they've got here is actually to do with that. So we have that information that's extremely useful. And then obviously when we survey that year on year, we can monitor and compare the multi-beam from one year to the multi-beam from the other year and see if scour is affecting things, obviously around the legs of the jacket, the offshore substation. We would expect to see scour around there. Hopefully the rock dumps are performing as they should be around the base of the monopiles, but you get to see all of that, and you don't get to see all that in a report as an end user. You just get to go in and look at it yourself, and that's the whole idea of what we're trying to do with the technology. And then the media data, we talked about ROV data, and I'm not going to leverage this too much because this does appear in my video, this very same example of a pipeline crossing. But simply put, we want to be able to connect information together. The whole idea of a digital twin in its most simplest form is that you're going to have lots of data, you're going to have listings, you're going to have multi-beam data, you're going to have videos, you're going to have all this information, and it's all separate, it's all disparate, it's all on a hard drive in separate folders, and it's not connected in any way. All we're doing is connecting the dots together. So if you want to have a look at a pipeline crossing in a specific area, all of the data is there for you to make that informed decision. You don't need to find which hard drive is the ROV data in and which of these 3-hour data sets do I need to go to find what I'm looking for. We're just driving the information and putting it together to make it far, far easier for you to be able to find things. And then it makes it easier with the reporting as well, because in the offshore wind example I gave you before, every 24 hours they're reporting back to us onshore just using Starlink on the ROV inspection campaign. We're pulling in data every 24 hours, feeding it directly into the system. We're getting the media photography for the anomalies and things like that. And we're able to provide the client with immediate feedback to any red flags or any anomalies within 24 hours through the portal. So everything's basically being collated, QC'd, and then issued in near real time. And that's the beauty of using the cloud, as long as you've obviously got a half decent Starlink connection to do that. But that's where we can do that. And then when we feed this data in, the reports that have to come out in the headed format that we issue to the client are actually automated. So we just push a button and the reports write themselves. We don't need to do them because it's all in the system as a database. So again, saves someone the painstaking task of kind of writing all of that out. I've got some examples here. Obviously, I've got the video file. As I say, we kind of operate above and below the waterline, and you can see just examples there of cross sections we've done around the offshore substations and the jackets and various other things, and the above water of the jacket on the offshore wind from that point of view. So lots of ways we can use the technology when we're looking at the subsea application rather than the topside digital twin. And then I have this video, doing okay for time, 5 minutes, and this is me. So what we've got here is GIS. I've got a construction support project off Brazil, and we get the entire field, so we can look at the entire field. This is a crazy ass field, FPSOs tied into massive pipelines. Semi-traditionally, you have your folder structure of all of the data. So this is getting rid of the hard drive now. You can just go in, download whatever you want. That's all there. We're not going to get rid of that because contractually everyone's going to ask for that. We can't reinvent the wheel. But what we'd love to do is this, which is to say, well, let's have a look at this pipeline here, and let's have a look at it in more detail. What survey activities have been undertaken on this particular pipeline? So there's been 3 campaigns: pre-lay, as-lay, and as-built. We've got all that information in here. We start on the pre-lay here. And what we'll do is we've got the multi-beam data, because this was a prelay multi-beam. So we've got the geotiff in this case of the survey route. We've got the design position of the pipeline, and we've got a few listings. The little dots basically are anything that we've hit in the listings. So the reports are in here, so we can issue reports through the system as mentioned before. And then obviously the event listing. This is a small listing just because it was prelay. But it's all in here, and rather than being a spreadsheet, it's all interactive basically. So you can filter to all of your boulders if you want to, or any engineering features that you want to. It's just an interactive way of doing the same thing. So by clicking on anything in the prelay, you get the data that you would normally get on your listings, but you also get the media files. In this case, it was static photography tied in to that particular event. So again, you're not hunting around for one thing, because one thing's connected to another. And in this other example, I'm just filtering to debris and doing the same thing. So it just becomes this kind of nice interactive way of looking and connecting some data together, which is useful from that point of view. And in this case, as I say, all the stills are in the media folder that you can kind of click on as you wish. A more interesting part of this data set is the as built. I'm just trying to remember what I did in what sequence. So you can see when it goes as built, things get a bit more exciting, because we get subsea structures, we get free spans, which is red there, as you can see going into the structure. We get pipeline crossings. So you can see there between the two blue dots, which is obviously free span start and free span end. We get pipeline crossing, which is the middle yellow one, as I'm highlighting there. You can see statistically we can show anything that we want. When I go into the information on the pipeline crossing, this time we had ROV video. So as mentioned before, I hit play and I'm already teed up on the video, 3 channels, just playing the pipeline crossing, ready to go from that point of view. So again, it's just about bringing the information together and making it far more accessible from that point of view. This is a complete screen record of what I did. This is real time on the cloud. There's no kind of speeding up or anything like that. And we've got a bit of a dodge interconnection in the office at the moment. You can kind of scrub through. It's just there. The information is there, and you can kind of then decide to kind of replay it back and go back to where you started. It's just driving informed decisions, and the feedback that we're getting from the operators is that they want to see more information where they can compare data over time. You know what I mean? As I say, bring in the multi-beam from 1 year and another year and look at how that looks, or if they want to tie into their anomaly systems, their management systems for the anomalies, bring that data in, see how that correlates, see how that helps them plan the next campaign for the next year. I can click on the 3D viewer of that particular pipeline crossing, and I'm just taken into the DTM of the data. We've been able to, using the 5-point listings, we can just project the 3D model of the pipeline in there. We've got the 3-dimensional positions of all of the events in here as well, so you can look at it 2 different ways. And then you're just in a world of, in theory, multi-beam point cloud data that you can manipulate however you want to. You can take measurements of it. You can take cross sections that are perpendicular to the pipeline. You can kind of change your elevation map just to highlight undulations and things like that. So I think I'm going to take a cross section here, and then that'll just kind of show you what I mean on the perpendicular cross section. We can do the longitudinal ones as well, but you can see how we are, whether we're free spanning or not free spanning, and its relationship, as you'd expect to see if you were using other processing softwares. But this is obviously all done on the internet browser through Microsoft Edge or whatever you want, so we're not talking specialist software, and that's the key to what we're trying to do here. We're just trying to make the data accessible to all from that point of view. So I think that covers off most of the data here. I think I'm going to show you reports which you've already seen. All the charts are in here. So there's nothing that isn't in here. It's just a different way of displaying the information, I guess, from that point of view. The event listings are obviously more complicated because there's a lot more of them, but that makes no difference. And then the media files, you can toggle between still images and video files. And again, you're just back to just choosing the video file if you knew which one you were looking for, and you can just find it, scrub along and just do it the old way. from that point of view, there's no problem with that. I think it's interesting. As I say, we're working with a few operators on the subsea side of things at the moment, because a lot of the data that they're managing is database driven. It's not visual, if you know what I mean. So they're using the reports and the listings to understand if free spans are getting worse year to year, and if that's exceeding engineering tolerances. But they're more interested now on looking at, what is the effect of scour, and what's the three-dimensional, view that I can take on this. So, the technology there and the quotes are obviously more on the top side than the subseas, but it obviously works. I mean, it works if you know where your data is to start with, and you don't need to either capture it again or retrieve it, because obviously that costs a huge amount of money, never mind anything in between. But apart from that, that's really what we're trying to do here at Action with our eyesight technology. Thank you very much. I don't know if there's any questions. It's usually the awkward bit.
I have at least one. Yeah. Shoot. Have you started looking into like a similar solution but in 3D? What you presented now is mostly, I guess, a 2D view. Is it in your pipeline in the future to?
3D is in the DTM being more of a mesh than a point cloud, for example.
That you can move around in 3D in eyesight.
Yeah, I mean the pipeline that I showed you with the DTM data was 3D. So that was a completely three-dimensional data set. So we can view the point cloud data from multi-beam subsea, or if you're using a Voyous photogrammetry system or a 3D at depth subsea LiDAR, all of that data goes straight in to this system. And I noticed Kraken, I don't know if there's someone in from Kraken today, but we've got Kraken's data in the eyesight from subsea laser systems, and we're just adding in some sub-bottom data actually into eyesight as well from some Kraken surveys. So we are in 3D. Whether we need to be in 3D as a what I would call a tin mesh or a DTM rather than a point cloud, because it's more normalized if you're working in your normal subsea processing tools, that you tend to see it as a solid surface rather than a point cloud, if you know what I mean. That is available to us because we do use that technology on the top sides to manage the 3D models that we have. So yeah, 3D good.
Another question. Security with regards to like the integrity data. Like I know from our side, we are very
conscious.
Yes, about our integrity data because it shows our weaknesses. Have you had any like clients asking you about?
We mixed. It's sometimes worrying, the operators I work for, that just say, just put the data on. This is a great tool. Let's have it. You know what I mean? From that point of view, there is due diligence. We are independently penetration tested annually from external people who try and break into our system, if you know what I mean. So we've got those reassurances that it's secure, and we obviously have that as the highest priority. I had someone mention to me before about, where's the data held? We can hold it wherever we want to. We're using servers in the UK. We can use servers in Europe or America. We can spin them up where we want to spin them up, if you know what I mean, from that point of view. We've had a client who wanted data held purely in Oman, which is quite difficult to do, but there are ways of doing that. But from a security point of view, we take it very seriously. And from an access point of view, we do prefer single sign-on protocols, so that we're basically using the company's IT protocols to approve people onto our system, if you will, rather than us using usernames and passwords, which we can't.
Okay, thank you.
4 months. I've been working on 2 different operators. I know they have different formats. I'm pretty sure most of them have their own. How do you look at that?
We're pretty agnostic is the short answer. I think that from a DTM subsea, everyone's delivering XYZ files, if you know what I mean, which is fine from that point of view. If you're talking laser scanning from any of the subsea systems that I mentioned, usually that comes in as E57s or something like that, as does the top sides. If it's 3D models, it could be anything from step and IGs to Navisworks to meshes. Fine with them all from that point of view.
To show the pipe, I was thinking about like event coding and different types of somebody use T-span in a different way.
Wouldn't matter, because usually the data that we derive, so that the pipe work that you saw there, we're almost taking that from a CSV listing. And then we're drawing the pipe from the listing, if you see what I mean, from that point of view. So we accept that everything will be in different orders depending on people's preference and clients. But at the end of the day, what we're really doing is the operators tend to dictate what file formats they want to get back for any particular inspection survey, and that tends to be a pretty standard set of data, if you will. And we can just take that and put that into the system. So we're designed to be agnostic, if you know what I mean. And if we do know what's coming in what format, we could create scripts that you could just drag and drop the data in, and the pipeline would appear, and the data would be straight in the system automatically, if you know what I mean. So just trying to make it as accessible as possible.
Yes. So being late first of all.
That's not, I didn't even see it.
But are you able to kind of work with live data, kind of, so you get the data presented more or less immediately into the system, or is it more like a long-term reporting kind of presentation of the data?
At the moment, it tends to be more deliverables, or I'd mentioned semi-real time when we're doing inspections of ROVs. I don't know if you were in for that or not, but we can take data through Starlink every 24 hours and update the system, if you know what I mean, in semi-real time, no problem at all. I don't know whether or not there's a need for live streaming, if you see what I mean, because this is primarily a delivery tool, if you know what I mean, to the client from that point of view.
Yeah.
On top sides, people have asked me, can I stream live video so that they can see people walking around a platform? And as long as it's an IP video source, then of course we could, if you know what I mean, from that point of view. So yes, but we tend to find semi-real time tends to cover things off, particularly if you want to report on anything within 24 hours, if there's anything problematic, if you know what I mean. So we could easily cover that.
Greg,
Yes.
You mentioned the operators that manage the data using your portal. Do you have a system that you have, let's say, administrators and different types of profiles that can log into the system or anything like that? Or is you have, let's say, one user can do it all?
User privileges are one of the kind of security features that we have. So we can set up power users and administrators. We can just set up standard users and groups and things like that. So we can customize that however you wish from that point of view. So on the top sides, particularly with the 3D models, the clients, now the operators are saying, look, this is really useful because I can go around the 3D model or the bubble view photography, if you've ever seen that kind of digital twin view, and I can see there's a TV on the screen and I can tag or label the TV and give it some metadata, and then it's there. So they've been looking at weeps and seeps and saying, I want to know where all my weeps and seeps are on the top side, and I want to be able to categorize them, because then I can prove to the authorities that I'm managing the risk because I know where they are. Our inspection reports are all here, and this is where it is. But they don't want to have that available to all the users and maybe even subcontractors, if you know what I mean. So they can create their own little working group, if you know what I mean, invite the people that they want to, and then only they can see it. So it's very scalable.
Yeah.
Okay, very scalable.
Maybe there's the second question. In the last presentation you had for us, you had eyesight, but for land, right? With bubble views and photogrammetry.
Yes.
Very interesting. Is that the same engine? Is that the same?
Same engine, yeah. We'd use, where we're using an engine to view the point cloud data, when I went into 3D there for the Subsea, we'd use a different engine to look at the kind of Navisworks intelligent models, for example, because it needs to be a bit more of an Autodesk friendly package there. But the beauty of what we do is we're taking these open source softwares, the ones that, you know, don't reinvent the wheel, the ones that really work, but put them into your shell, and then because they're open source, you can actually then develop into them, if you know what I mean, and create your own features that you need to. So that tends to be our USP. We just get challenged from our clients who say, this is really good, but what if we could do this, or could we do that? And you know, a lot of times everyone's set on really good information or lots of systems, but the systems are not connected, if you know what I mean, and we try and corral it together.
One last question. Is there any, if you have like an anomaly, is there some sort of like a notification that can be sent?
You could do that, yeah. We've done lots of different ways you could do that. The short answer is yes. On the top sides, and I know this is similar for Subsea as well, on the top sides, we can tie into SAP, for example, which is the entire anomaly database for that entire facility, and we are just reading it in through an API. What we're adding to the improvement is that you've got a database of anomalies, but you don't know where they are, and you don't know the relationship of them to each other. What we could do is put them in the eyesight and create that visibility. And then because of the data that we pull through from SAP, you can filter by priority, you can filter by the 2026 turnaround in the summer, and just look at the ones that you want to be working on and then see the relationship of them. So then if you need to isolate things, if you need scaffolding in certain areas, you can appreciate that having that 3D view is really useful. So, and we've done the same with, I'm going to say BP's Nexus system, but it might not be Nexus, I can't remember what it's called, but the anomaly pipeline system that they use, they've given us that data so that we can kind of put those anomalies in, so that we can kind of overlay that from the Subsea.
Thank you. Any more questions? Oh,
I can have a yeah. I'm just wondering, you mentioned you have your own cloud, but is there a way, let's say an operator wants to go for your solution? Do they have like terabytes of scanning data? Do they have to upload everything to your cloud app? Operators are quite reluctant to share a lot of data on the servers. Even you can argue that we use Azure as well. What we do is
I think the
different clouds, but
you
consider to use as a service and use the data from the source.
There's a couple of ways we could probably do it. It's a really good question because we've been asked this before. I think that the point cloud data, let's just use point cloud data as an example. The data that you have, it might be E57, it may be XYZ or RCS, for example. It's native to that particular application, if you know what I mean. So when you want to put that data and put it on the cloud, it's ironically not that file format that you need to put it on the cloud. As you know, everything on the cloud is slightly web friendly, if you know what I mean, from that point of view. So then the question becomes, yes, we could find a way of being able to connect to your system to see the data that you have, and then it's whether then we have to convert it to the web friendly format that we need. And then the question is, do you want that to reside on your system? So you've got to give us access to a working area on your system, because we could do that, because when we're calling the data that you see there, we're just calling it from a cloud repository. It doesn't matter if it's mine or yours, that's what we're doing. But I'd need a working area to put more of my data on your side, because I can't just take your raw-ish data, if you know what I mean, to view it on the cloud. But yeah, we could do it that way. I know, it's difficult, particularly when there's big data and you don't want to move it around. It's always a pain. But yeah. Some of our clients just pay us to manage their data for us. The operators just pay us to manage their E57. So when they've got the bull views, they just want to say, right, download the scans from here, and then we go engineering, if you know what I mean. So and like BP's your own thing, if you know what I mean. So I do appreciate that. But yeah, challenge. But yeah, we could do that.
Challenge accepted.
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next one up, Subsea scanning.
Great. It was this morning I realized that I haven't attended a NOSP meeting in exactly 10 years. So 10 years not attending NOSP meetings, and I realized two things coming here. A, you haven't aged a day. And the second thing is you moved from the Irish pub last time I was joining to Gaffel and Carafe. So how fancy is that? It's good to be back, and I wonder where we are in 2036. You know? My name is Jost, and I'm the founder and manager of a small but very precious company based in Foros, here in sunny Stavanger, called Subsea Scanning AS. And in Subsea Scanning, we conduct R&D projects. So we are today actually not delivering any services. We are still focusing on researching and developing metrology, optical metrology technology. But I'm here today to tell a little bit about our largest and latest R&D project, which is about airborne laser scanning and supposed to be inspections to the offshore wind industry, maybe 2027. We'll see about that. Now, the wind industry, like any other industry that has large assets that are exposed to harsh environments, maybe you know one, requests always that inspections are conducted very cheap, very fast, and kind of perfect, right? 100% detection rate, 100% successful classification rate, and everything shall be automated. So they only get the final results on the table straight away, no downtime in between. That's the goal. On the other side, reality is that we are focusing on blade anomalies. Well, reality is that there was a release, a white paper, December 25, so not that long ago, 23 different type of anomalies or regular anomalies only in the blades. So, you know, it's hard to tackle both challenges. Be fast, be 100% complete and cheap and everything, and then differentiate between so many different kind of defects. We in Subsea Scanning believe that no single sensor could answer this call. So we decided to combine various sensors to achieve that. And we believe most of all in optical sensors because they are non-destructive, they're very fast, and they're very accurate. You have a high potential for optimization. And if you use different type of cameras, you can digitize different type of material properties. So if need be, we can deliver in real-time results. And of course, machine learning supports very well image analysis. That's nothing new. So, we'll see if we get there. So we do what everybody would probably start with. We take a color image. So we take a drone, fly quite close to these rotor blades, about 3 meter distance, and take high resolution images. And as you can see here in this example, this is actually a specimen I had in my office, 80 times 60 centimeters in size, just a small fraction of a rotor blade. As you can see, there's not so much to see. So just a color camera can this task in this journey not be a proper response to a call. So we decided to employ also thermal imaging. This is the same specimen, the same site. We've heated it for a few minutes and then took a thermal image from close range. And you can see, okay, that gives us a completely different picture, right? We can actually see the heat dismission. We can see what's going on in the underlying structure. So entirely different scenario. Last but not least, and this is where most of our time and efforts go to, is 3D scanning. And you can see here 3D point out of the same specimen. I can play this here so you get a better impression. The 3D scanner, actually the one you're seeing down here, delivers a point resolution or point distance of 1 millimeter. So every millimeter on that specimen, you get a single 3D point. And the magic really starts on the next slide and is achieved by getting this data in a synchronous way. So we have a geometric overlap, and all 3 data sets are aligned and correctly scaled. Okay, we achieve that through co-registration during the calibration process. So in the bottom, we have this 3D point cloud, and then we map the colors and the thermal data on top of it. And now we're talking. Now we can all of a sudden, so we have this correct geometry, we have this correct scaling. And what happens now is that these defects lie on top of each other, and you can actually analyze this triple data set across thermal, RGB, and 3D point cloud. And it gives us new ways to actually classify and validate our classification results, right? You have a hotspot somewhere, and then you check all 3 data sets at the exact same position, at the exact same location, and see, okay, if there's something suspicious in the thermal data, what does the geometry say? What does the point cloud say at this stage, at this area? What does the RGB say? So this helps us a lot. The field of view we cover is about 1 square meter from a 3 meter distance we are recording. And I already mentioned 1 millimeter point distance. The type of scanner we have built and designing is based on a concept called stereophotogrammetry. I assume that most of you are familiar with this. Frank, pay attention, now you can learn something. You basically have a left camera, LC, and a right camera, RC, and through the calibration process, you learn about their distance and the relative angle towards each other. The distance is usually called baseline. Then you have an overlapping field of view to the object. And if you take the 2 resulting images and find the same object points in both images, you actually build some kind of triangle, which is now the 2 red lines and the baseline. And in this triangle, you can actually calculate the depth. That means the distance from this object point to the baseline. Let's practice this, because the next slide will be a test, so pay attention. We have here a stereo image pair of a cute little neighborhood. And now if we look at some identical points, here's a laser pointer, let's say. Yeah, you can, for example, pick the end of the fence here, pick the end of the fence here, mark those 2, and then compute a first 3D point to your point cloud. Next, you may wish to focus on the tire, the center of the tire of the wheel, both images, triangle, compute the depth, and so on and so forth. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Everybody's nodding. Okay, please make a line. Come to the front. This is a close range image pair from rotor blade. I will pick a pixel on the left side, and you pick the corresponding pixel on the right side, okay? Okay, not gonna work. Of course, that's not going to happen. So we were certainly the first one to solve that problem by deploying, designing, and building a 3D laser projector. We are very fond of lasers and pattern type that is called speckle. And it's a very forgiving kind of projector because it's just optical noise. Okay, we have this here. You can see below the cooler, there's a small laser diode. It's about 1 centimeter times 1 centimeter times 1 centimeter, so really small. You can take a look in the break here in the system, and it casts that huge noise to the object. And all of a sudden, it's not only just gray anymore. All of a sudden, you have this interesting noise. And all of a sudden, our task to find these corresponding pixels become doable, right? You start maybe picking some very bright points in the left image, find the bright points in the right image, and so on. You look at certain formations, at certain geometry. All of a sudden, this becomes doable, what was impossible before. But still, shall we agree that if you take an even low resolution camera, let's say 1,000 lines, 1,000 rows in the sensor, you have 1 million pixels to choose from, shall we agree that it would take still a long time? No matter if you're human or iron, that takes really a long time. There are a couple of tricks that we can employ. For example, I can explain this trick by introducing you to my favorite red line. That's the one up here. You can see the red line here. And you may notice that it lies somehow between those two black squares on the checkerboard. And if you follow that red line, then we see, it's crossing the same checkerboard, the same squares here at the same height. My second favorite red line is the one below here. And it crosses this bottom corner of the black square. And the same happens here on the right side. So this is what we call a rectification process. And that is built on information we gained during the calibration process as well. Okay, you can see that these images are have a weird border. They are screwed and stretched somehow. And that results in the object points being always on the same height. You're with me? Yeah, some people are still nodding. Good enough. Okay, and that helps us how? Well, it helps us while we don't have to pick any more from a million potential candidates or corresponding candidates. We only have to pick from about 1,000 potential candidates because we know the correspondence is on the same height, right? That limits our search window drastically. To make it even more fun and more complicated and more challenging, we move to the next slide. We use temporal correlation. What happens here is you're not only taking one image pair, you're taking several image pairs. Okay, so red, they are up there are, I have a pointer here. So up here, that's the left camera taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 images, and 5 images simultaneously taken from the right camera down here. And what you do in between is you change the pattern. You remember that green funny pattern, you change it somehow. You shift, you rotate, do whatever you want. Just make sure it's not the same in the second and in the third and the fourth and the fifth image pair. What happens now if you look here at pick one pixel as an example, it may have catched very little light from the projector in the first image, but in the second image, it caught a lot of light. This is why it drew it kind of white. And in the third one, it's caught some light. And the fourth, pretty little light, so it's quite dark again. So you build some kind, or you get some kind of intensity change over time. Are you still with me? Very good. And that intensity change you search for in the same line, in the right image stack, so to speak, and that helps you to identify really the same identical point and helps you to build that triangle and be 100% sure that you can actually find the correct match and compute the correct depth. To the left, you can see first flight tests we undertook, I think, late 24. That's a previous version from the scanner you can see down here. This one has basically the same sensors on board. It's just not capable of producing so much light, working as fast as the one standing below the screen here. And it's not capable of processing live data. To the right, you can see that we just kicked off a new project where we actually deploy the same kind of payload, the same kind of sensor to a small robot that we can actually drive inside the rotor blades and do the same type of inspection from the inside. Major difference here is, of course, the robot can stand still. We have a pan and tilt unit, so we can direct the sensor head wherever we want. We have a lot more time. It's not so time critical as the one with the mobile platform. And we will also deploy a heater on board that payload so we can actually perform active thermography, which results usually in much better contrast in the thermal images. By the way, we are pretty happy with how the prototype works today, and we are ready to conduct some flight tests, but we are looking for a partner who has actually a drone that can lift about 10 kilos and conduct some tests so we can get to the next step. If you happen to know somebody, please let me know. Right, I think I'm mostly through my presentation. To the right, you can see an example point cloud. This is me holding a 1 meter above my head. So we have a pretty large field of view, about 1.20 meter in total, I think. And we superimpose it here with the thermal data, 400,000 3D points on my upper body. This project phase is actually co-financed by Rogalands Fylkekommune. We are very grateful for their contribution. And our scope is basically build a new sensor housing, which we just have. The sensor can now be battery powered. We have developed a new calibration board for the thermal camera. And we are just kicking off a new development for a new projector, which is even brighter, which allows us to scan faster. This one here can scan about 10 times per second, which causes about 1 terabyte of data within 10 minutes. When it comes to software development, we are a tiny little bit behind schedule, but we are currently automating data storage and automating data processing. Obviously, 1 terabyte in 10 minutes, you don't want to do that manually. You need to have a fully automated pipeline here, down to visualizing the point cloud also on the web. Next steps will be actually a machine learning-based parameterization of the sensor. So we don't have a field operator anymore who manually checks that the cameras are working and make sure that the exposure time is correct. This shall be handled by a online model, basically. And last but not least, of course, the data analysis. I don't know, if we have a few minutes, and I would like to, if I may, I just lift this up over here. As you can see, it's still a work in progress. Close to 10 kilo. The left camera and right camera, which are high speed, they can capture up to 800 frames per second, which helps us to tackle actually the mobile aspect of the platform. In the center housing, we have up here the RGB camera, thermal camera, and a laser projector. The upper part of the system is pretty rigid. That means this is not supposed to move in any way. All optical components are pretty, need to be stable in order to maintain calibration. Up here, we have a couple of dampers that show damp vibrations coming from the drone. And in the lower part, hidden from any competitor here, is computing and controllers and power supply and whatnot. To be able to operate this in lab, we have 4 big fans here at the bottom, so it stays cool. And if I knock anybody down, don't. If I turn this around, you can see that we can actually power on and off each component separately. We have interfaces for USB and DisplayPort and, of course, Ethernet and fuses, so all components they are individually protected. Baseline is about 1 meter size, so you need a pretty heavy, strong drone to lift this off the ground. Yeah, I think that's it from my side. Ask away. Questions?
You have a 1 meter resolution. What's your point accuracy?
In lab, actually, I haven't determined yet, to be honest. This is just, we just got this to work basically in this high-speed scenario at least. So I have not yet the accuracy yet. And of course, the question how much inaccuracy introduces the drone. That's the second thing. So we'll see.
Millimeter.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, the point density is 1 millimeter, so you assume that the accuracy is higher than that.
Yeah.
But there are 2 methods actually to try to keep the accuracy as high as possible during mobile sensing. First, be as fast as possible. We are now, one scan takes about a tenth of a second, but we are, if you take the full resolution, this multi-shot system that I introduced, but by the end of the year, we'll be at 100th part of a second. So the first thing is, the faster you are, the less movement time the drone had to move. And the second thing is, of course, you can track an estimated trajectory of the drone and then compensate for that movement. And we just started to work on that as well. So we will soon integrate GPS and MANU and then estimated trajectory.
Have the wind operators expressed an interest in gaining better accuracy or understanding of blade damage, if you will? Because obviously there is photogrammetry systems on drones in the market that are doing at the moment that are obviously doing what you're trying to do, if you know what I mean, not suggesting they're using the technology that you're using. So is the gap in the market the opportunity to try and bring that higher resolution because it's needed more for that kind of fatigue analysis?
Yes, it is. I think I've been talking to an operator for some months ago, and they confirmed that they accepted they have to actually power down the rotors. They have to stand still and get really close in order to get that high resolution because they are not really happy if you measure it from a distance. I mean, there are many projects that said, okay, we want to keep those blades spinning while we're measuring, and they're figuring really out smart things to rotate actually the sensor in the same speed as the rotor blades, so they can get proper data, and still the operators are not good enough, are not happy.
Yeah, so you're going to operate this while it's operational?
No, I'm gonna, this has to stand still, yes, definitely. It's 3 meter distance, so I think.
But the blades can be turned. The blades that you're surveying.
No, they have to stand still.
They do have to stand still.
You have to stop the
Yeah.
structure. Any more questions? That must have been a really good presentation.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing the prototype as well.
Yeah.
It's not something we see often, so thanks for that.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so then it's time for a break, half an hour, and then we'll start up again at 8:30.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of questions. I know sometimes I don't present, so yeah.
that is from AkerSolutions and Toponor. And yeah, please start when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Robert Asbøg. I come from AkerSolutions. I come from civil construction before I started in AkerSolutions, and right now we are focusing on the top sites. A little different working in the industries than in land surveying, but it's quite fun, a good challenge, and difficult things to do. And we are focusing a lot on scanning here. And I was lucky to bring Ricardo on, so you can present yourself.
Thank you. Let me see. It's good for his pose. Normally we don't have two persons presenting. So I'm Ricardo Ferreira, and I'm part of the NOSP committee for a while now. And and I also have a small survey company called Toponor. And I've been having the pleasure to work together with AkerSolutions over the last year and a half or so, with what you are going to see with the power of point clouds in construction. We thought the title was a little bit too much. It's more like a power of point cloud in construction, one power. So we will have a presentation. There will be a lot of slides, a lot of photos to see. It has been a long project. We will do this presentation simultaneously because we both wanted to do the presentation. So we decided, okay, let's do it together. So Robert will start, and then I'll at some point I'll take over.
Feel free to pitch in.
Yes. Go. Okay. Let's see.
There we go. Okay. So we have a different kind of software and hardware and everything. So today we are going to focus on the 360, of course, scanning. But we have 360 and Cyclone 360. Work with 3DR and Core. I mainly hate Core, but it's a good good fighting with this guy on this one. Never learned Core, that's the reason. And it's hard to go into and everything. So I prefer 3DR and 360 myself. We deliver a lot of point clouds to engineering, and they would like to have everything in Navisworks. And we also use that to get the model and everything. We also use microsession for different simulations and stuff like that. When it comes to the team itself, we have around 35 servers, 36 today, isn't it, Steinar? With Fredrik. Yeah. And I'm a project, or not project, but discipline lead at Hugin A. And Steinar is discipline lead at PVP, Valhall. On the hardware, we are using now 360 scanners, RTC. We are also using total stations, different kinds, TS 16 and 20 and etc. to get a grid and everything. And we are exploring different kind of things to go for in the future regarding drones and stuff like this. But not in this presentation. Little bit on the yard itself. On to the left here, you see Hugin A. And this small, tiny bit on the right side there, you only have Valhall. On Stord, we have around 10,000 people right now. So it's a big company with a lot of things happening. A lot of people, a lot of disciplines to take care of, and a lot of challenges for us surveyors, as all of you probably know a little bit. And then we have another picture on sail away of Fenris topside and the Hugin B jacket.
Yes, I took from the internet. You can just skip that part.
Okay. So, topside, it's supposed to weigh around 27,900 tons. Overall, it's 142 meters. It's length of the mainframe is 90 meters. Height of the platform is 55 meters. The firewall are 45, and overall 70 meter with a flare. Main assembly yard is AkerSolutions Stord, but we had different companies or different yards in Poland, Finland, Dubai, Sandnessjøen, Egersund, Burdal, a lot of places of the world. And it's my job to try to get every piece to fit together. That's a really big challenge. So we start with the process. That's been kind of like the main focus on Stord itself. So a little bit on the way the platform is divided with poles, and I would say around 3 times this room, each and every pole. And then we have all these other parts, lower utility, that was on Egersund. SRU, that was actually in Batam, so Indonesia. Well Bay was in Dubai. And then we have the pole 60, that was in Poland. Pole 4 and 3 and 8 was in Poland. And then we have the living quarter, that was in Leirvik, so nearby us actually. And then we have the flare in Sandnessjøen, of course. So, first lifting, first pole. This was the view I had for 6 hours. We were supposed to lift it, but it took 6 hours to actually hook it up. They did wrong on the hooking. They had to redo it, so I had a beautiful sunset. So what you see here, so let me just walk over. This is the area where we're going to place the hooking egg. This is something else. So we did a scan of the scaffold itself to check it for clashes or whatever, to see if everything was ready. Didn't think I would find much, but we actually did find something. There were some small pallets, so it was easy to remove. This is a kind of a simulation that we use in between the poles. So after lifting pole 1, that was in place. We had pole 2 just on the side. And this was actually, it's a little bit wrong here, but this was actually pole 3 on top of pole 1. So it was a simulation, scan versus scan, and we used the scan to create this kind of simulation between it. And then, of course, we did a clash check of it. And the thing here, and my big challenge is, we have a huge scope. We have pipers, we have welders, we have isolation, we have painters and everything. Everyone is building each and everyone's scaffold. Put up tents, put up shit in together, everything. And I have to deal with everything. Then I get one date. Okay, that's the day we are going to lift. Okay, when will I be able to go under to scan it? 1 day before. Thank you. No, I need at least 5 days, I said the first time. Sorry, we cannot do that. You will have 2 days. Can at least have 3 days? No, you have 2 days. So that was basically the standard for us. You have to do the full clash check, the simulation and everything. So you have to capture the data. You have to work around the piping. You have to work around the scaffolds. You have to work around painters. You have to get all the scaffold removed and everything. And then do the full simulation and then do the full clash check. That's a really hard task to do. It demands a lot of planning. That's where Ricardo were my wingman on this one. Because I needed to plan, okay, what do we need removed? How can we do this? So that was kind of my big job. Figure out what do I need to be able to do this task. Then I get Ricardo to do the actual task, together with me and another team, of course. So just another example of a simulation that we did. And this is how it looks. So up in the top here, you see the underside of one pole, full of supports, full of pipes, full of sometimes scaffold hanging with it. And then you have the top side. And then you're going to thread that down to this somehow. So you have a lot of scans, a lot of things you have to deal with, a lot of things you have to detect before you have to be there with the lifters. So that's why we have 2 days, and the welders that are going to cut everything, they are running all night long before the lifting. This was pole 4 on pole 2, and this is an example on the clashes that we found. For instance, a beam sticking down there. And I'll run through a little bit more. And on the lifting, everything was evenly supported, so everything was good while we built it. But when we lift it, how will it look? When we drop it down, how will it look? It will probably be different, right? So we need to figure out, okay, how does it look? And then we have to try to estimate, will this actually fit or will it not? And do we expect some clashes there? Especially on the wing decks, the red part there, that was just falling off. So, yeah, and they believe everything is straight. It's still, of course, it's straight. No, it's still, and it's heavy. It goes down. And then you see in the middle, you see kind of like on the intensity map, you see that it's different all the way. The walls and everything, you have small gaps in the middle, like so. Nothing is even.
Yeah, if I can add there, just so you guys understand the size of this every single element of that, it weighs between 400 to 500 tons, right?
Yeah.
So when you start packing up this to build a platform, the floor and the whole thing starts to sink down, right? Then we have to, in addition to check the position and to check the clashes, what they're gonna have when they lift down, we also have to check what's gonna happen after it's lifted down. So that's a quick evaluation to see the floor after the lowering down.
Yeah. This was actually PO 4 versus PO 3, and PO 4. Question?
So can I interrupt?
Should.
I don't have good enough eyes, so I didn't see the scaling yet.
Yeah.
What kind of deformation do you expect, or did you get in this steel big tool?
Yeah, it depends on what was the reason they asked for it specifically. So in the first one, this one, I think that was, they believe that the wing decks are falling down a little bit. So we believe that the pipes will not fit as it is drawn in the model. So then we can kind of like show them, okay, the whole floor is a little bit down, which means you have a support, almost like this tripod, and the pipe are going on top of that one. So we know that pipe will fall down a little bit. Then we can kind of tell them, yep, that pipe is not going to fit in the theoretical model anymore, and you need to adjust on this side, or you either that, or you have to lift this one up to get it back. That was kind of like the question from the construction guys. Another case we will come back to is a totally different, it's still an intensity map, but it's a different case. And we can take that when we get to that picture. This was PO 3 versus PO 4. PO 4 was built in Poland, and we had some challenges when we placed everything. So we did a simulation. And you can actually explain this one, because this was your baby, so.
Yeah, it's maybe not so clear for everyone to understand, but in yellow you have one element, the edge of one element. In blue you have the edge of the other element, right? I'm gonna put them together. And then you can see from the arrows there, this is against the design positions, right? So the design positions, and then you have some arrows there in black and in red. And the black is the good news, the red is not so good news. So on this one, we can start to understand, we have to call the installation guys and say, the good news are there is 6 good news and quite a lot of bad news. So that actually was the beginning of the starting for actually the more hands-on on the utilization of the scans. Yeah. So we can see some numbers that should not be there. Again, this is not final numbers, so Aker BP, don't be worried. This was just the planning, right? This is so that they are prepared for the worst. But you get numbers before things actually happen.
Yeah. What is this one? There's 10 there. What 10 centimeters, millimeters?
Oh yeah, millimeters.
Millimeters.
In our point cloud world, everything is millimeters.
Okay.
Everything.
At least.
But in those 2 days, did you do the scanning and calculation? And they expect you to do all the rectification?
Yes.
That's pretty.
It's heavy.
You should get a double.
It's hard and it takes a lot of
Should be
time.
part of the war package.
He didn't have white hairs before that.
I'm telling you, it's been a lot of working on the nights as well. So it's been hard to deliver on the demand. And when we say we have 2 days, people are kind of like, yeah, but it's easy to do it in 2 days. Yeah, but you don't know the scale of this now. It's really
It's not easy to do.
No,
this. Like,
this is really heavy. And it's basically me telling all the construction guys and contact every discipline. Tomorrow at 6 o'clock, 00, everything needs to be ready because we need to start at 6:00 if we are going to make this one. And then it's kind of like we start with a simulation, we put everything together, scan and everything, right? We start with the simulation, send that one out. So we just send bits and pieces to the construction when we go. And then we end up with a clash check. So when I'm working on the simulation, Ricardo is working on the clash check. And then he's giving like an input feed, so on a live PowerPoint. That's our solution today. A live PowerPoint that we update just every time we get a new thing, which the construction guys are following. So every time something pops in, they send out the guy, cut this one. Okay, cut this one. Okay, remove that scaffold, remove that one. So we are working basically live and just work through those 2 days. It's a hard way to work, but it's actually efficient. As long as you have the right competence and you have the right people, like Ricardo.
I need to mention the red hour arrows. It's
Okay,
not a
walk
bad
back.
thing because some of the section is delivered with overlay.
Yeah.
So it's quite normal,
Yeah, it is.
some kind of overlay. Maybe not, maybe. You never know.
No. In this case, we had some temporary beams that was supposed to support the whole bow up when we lifted it up. And then we saw on the bottom, it was a little bit sticking down. So that was one kind of a clash. And this was a little bit like, it was a little bit moved because it's hanging on one small thin plate. So it was dangling like this basically. During the lifting, you saw the beam was standing like this. So we discovered that this does not look good, but we can move it, so that's good. But the clash on the bottom, that one we needed to remove, so that one was cut. This is just an example. Here we have another example on the simulation itself. And then, how can we give a good view on where the guys can find the clashes? I had one idea. Ricardo had his idea. And we worked with someone on the method. They had their idea. This was kind of my way of trying to solve that one. So I will go over and explain. Right. So I divide the whole section. This is from top view. So I divide it in 5 zones. Right now I'm working in zone 4. Then I take a front view of it, and then I mark the elevations and the location with a number. And then I put the number here. So I show the actual clash and the number so they can locate both in top view and in front view. That way, I think you can easily find, okay, I need to go exactly there. Quicker to actually find the thing that is clashing and cut it. That was just one way to do it. But we had to work together, all 3 of us, and put in everything together. So when I was done with the simulation, I also worked with the clash check. So that's kind of like things we can find in the clash check. Here you have an example. It was a support on a tank. So if you just put this one down, then the tank's isolation was penetrated. So we could not have that support there. So that's what this clash check here is showing.
By the way, a detail on that.
Could you go back, maybe?
The number of clashing areas is 18 in this specific example.
Yeah.
So if what we show is just one example, right? So you understand what is a clash. But for each area, we would find between 5 to 20 clashes.
Yeah.
And if we don't do this work up front, what's the typical situation is that in these big constructions, the crane lifts these 600-700 tons of massive, and they go down until it hits something. And then it has to stay there until it goes, guys trying to cut stuff. And they spend hours and hours and even days and days.
Yeah.
And this delays the project. You have thousands and thousands of people on hold waiting for this to be run. On hold with the crane. The crane cannot do anything else because it has 700 and the crane is very expensive.
And Valhall is probably waiting for this section to go down so they can start on their lift. So then you are actually affecting Valhall as well, which is why it was so important to actually reach those demands and reach those dates.
Yes, I just wanted to highlight that for each of these sections that we do, one of the purposes, of course, is simulation. How should we position this? Is this correct enough or not? The second is how can we make sure to reduce the time that is being people on hold and waiting with cranes and everything, that everything fits first time, no issues.
So this was pole 7 versus pole 6. It's actually the same in that case because it's hitting clashes there. So
yes, these was difficult areas.
Not every time we would like to do the full clash check with the full RGB pictures and everything. Sometimes we just take it out as a red dot when we don't have time. So this is also showing the kind of situations we can be working with. You see a tent over there. And inside of that tent, you also have piping. And that will not come on this clash check. And that's been a little challenge for us to make sure that all the tents are open and everything. You see that everything is built around where the colored one is coming down in the middle here. You have a big support coming down, and you see there is a lot of stuff here. If I don't recall wrong, this was 10 hours before the lifting. So that's how close up the lifting we were delivering that one. And they have to run up there and remove everything. So it's a quick one. Then I think it's your turn.
Is it my turn? Okay. Yes, we're going to pass a little bit through here because it's more or less kind of a repetition of before. The different types of elements clashing you had from scaffolding, cable trays, that things are not in the design. So it was a lot of learning for everyone to see that when you do something from engineering, things are not sometimes exactly as they are engineered, and this is why happens things like that. So we have been through all the process area, all the way to the top. All the top these are also huge elements, all of them. The top of the processing area. This is a funny example here where someone didn't think on placing down an element, so they think if you go down somehow this suddenly appears in the world. So some gravity is important. This is a typical scenario. So you have scaffolding all over the place, and they tear this down a few hours before. So we have to scan all over with scaffolding and then remove everything in the point cloud most of the times. More examples of things clashing. Here you have some, how do you call this? Brackets on the walls. It was stopping the crane to go down. We also discovered that the use of laser scanning and to do the simulations, it helped as well, not just with the clashing, but also with the maneuvering of the crane. Sometimes they had to grab the whole pole, the whole structure, massive, go down, and then they have to maneuver the module to go into something and then rotate. And so we also did this kind of simulation to make sure that within this type of maneuvering, it is okay to do it without clashing. And most of the times it wasn't. So there was always things to cut up front. Some more clashes. I think every single element was clashes. Okay, so we are done with the well bay and process area and moving forward. No, this is the well bay now. Here we used also laser scan for checking the connections. I'm going to go a little bit through here just to explain. So this is typically done with total station because it's accurate and it's fast. And we did this both with total station and laser scanner because the profiles are very, the profiles of this is called box girder. You see here a picture. So it's what is important when you build a platform is that these massive beams, these box girders, they connect very well with each other. As you can see here in a report, then you have around 15 millimeters that's out of tolerance, is 4, 5, 6 millimeters that's within the tolerance to connect all these massive joints together. So you have, let's say, 3 here, 3 on the other side. And then we were doing this scanning, high precision laser scanning. That of course takes a lot longer than the fast scanning. But we could see with more certainty that everything would connect correctly. And the addition is we could simulate how we can maneuver the element to come in. So, which would be more difficult to do with a traditional total station measurements.
It's just actually trailing, not lifting. We use the trailers to drive it in the position. That's pretty fun.
Yes, that's right. The same with the living quarters that we're going to see after.
Yeah.
So this was the utility. As you can see here, this is a massive module. This was built in AkerSolutions in Egersund. It came as one package in this boat. So we had to. The mission here was to connect this yellow part to this green part within a few millimeters to understand the size of this.
That was crazy.
Was not so bad. The results were more or less 5-6 millimeters, so things were done quite okay in Egersund. A few clashes. Here was not 18, but up to 7-8 clashes that we found. So this was very successful. This is also another POW on top. This one has, I think, 700 tons. So it's one of the biggest that we have, if I'm not mistaken.
This was actually 1,000 tons.
1,000 tons,
Yeah.
Thank you. I think this one got 18, so almost reached the record of the clashes that they have to cut and remove. These are all the small units, clashes. The other one, small SRU, south-north, also near clashes. Another small element clashes, and then came the living quarters as one of the last elements. That was built just next to us in Leirvik. So you can see again the massive units that these are. On the right side is living quarters, left side is the utility. And this was like this for us to scan. So you can imagine we can't scan with scaffolding and with tents and nothing could be open for us. And the precision here was again back to 2-3 millimeters. So on this particular part, we were brave enough to do everything with laser scanning and almost kept the total station measurements. High precision laser scanning. There
On aluminium, actually. And that's also a challenge with the laser scanning on the aluminium. It give us some bad reflections often and everything. So Yes, we found clashes, of course, not much, a few clashes. And we also, it was interesting because they also use the laser scan to fabricate actually the shims that they needed to connect, right? So this is the module of the living quarter. You have 4 hooking points, 1, 2, 3, 4. This on top you have these hammers, right? It's like these hammers. It's gonna connect like this size. And then we're doing high precision laser scanning, and we found out that, for example, in this case, they needed 12 millimeters for shims, and on this side, they needed around 20 millimeters for shims. So it is extremely high accuracy that it was used. This is just one example on one corner. We did for everything. And here, the good thing was we actually used the laser scannings to simulate entirely how the living quarter is going to connect to the process module. So there was a lot of discussions that the living quarter had to tilt a little bit forward, 3.5 degrees, or should be 3.8, I'm not sure. But the thing was, when we actually had to do the installation, the guys from the construction, they went, okay, let's go for it. Let's just do it. And when we were about to connect the modules, I asked, by the way, are you using 3.5 or? And then one of the guys looks at you, yeah, you were the one in the meeting. They told you something. I can't really remember. Let's just go. It's almost time for dinner. So they went anyway, full power. Everything fitted. Everybody was happy in the end of the day. So we didn't really use exactly as expected, but in the end it was matching almost perfectly. We had control on the heli deck, and that was 12 millimeters within. So you're actually within the tolerance on that one. So yeah, that's good. We also found out that point clouds in rubber, black and white, gives this kind of effect. So consider that in some scanning with some special sprays and so on. And so you can see here, like the massive amount of this was around number 1,800 tons that this module have to be lifted up and put it to be connected. And you can see here again one of the examples that the cladding, so the protection layer, was in the model in one position, and the reality was like 20 millimeters outside. So if they would have not used the scans, they would go in and they would break the whole thing apart. So that's why it was very good to do laser scanning up front. So they actually cut it, all these parts before. Yes, one more. There is the flare still, I think. So it's not completed yet, this big project. There is a few more elements to go. One is the flare, and there is some stairs and small stuff. Compared to what we have been through, it's small stuff. Intensity map. Yes. There you have another example of where we use the intensity map. Yes, so we use the scans for the simulation, connect positioning. We use the scans for class checking. And we also use the scans here for intensity map. And in this example, our customer wanted to know how the water will flow when it rains a lot. Because of all these modules on top of each other, they tend to make some ovality, and water stays there. So we want to know, is the water flooding on the right directions? Do we have, there is some drainage maps here. So now we can see, in this case, we were lucky, that was within 4 or 5 millimeters of precision. So the water was flooding very good. So the case here is HHSC. So if the water freezes and you have an emergency and you have to run away, what will happen if the water is staying in the runway path? So that's the basic case of this one. And that's one case where they ask us to do this kind of measurements and presentations.
Exactly. So traditionally we would do something like on the left side.
Yeah.
It's done with the total station. You measure points on the ground here and there, you get some elevations, and with the floor levelness, you have a full picture of flatness of the surface in the floor in this case.
We will also get another example on where we're going to use the intensity map soon.
Yes, challenges. We're starting to talk about that. So very dense areas. Of course, on this, as you can see, it's just an example. There is pipes all over the place, and tens and scaffolding, you name it. Delivery timeline.
Yeah. So in this case, this is a typical case where we have 2 days to capture the data, both of POE 7 that was going on top here and POE 8. And this is POE 5 and POE 6 you see in the background. And this is what's meeting us on the top. And we have to navigate around, we have to move around and get all the scans. We have to cover all the angles, and we have to see that we actually are covering everything. How can we do that when we are out there, right? A lot of planning. That's how it is. And that's why I'm thinking about drone is a really good tool. Maybe we can use that in the future. Because then we are quite sure that we capture well enough, as long as we have a good enough accuracy on it. But we moved around and scanned everything up here, and this is things that are harder than ourselves, many of the pieces are. So you have to move around to cover all the angles and everything. So quite a challenge, basically.
Yes, you forgot the detail. There was 4 elements just before Christmas. So.
Yeah. The worst time, that was around 16th of December, that week. Because then we had the driving of the LQ, the placement of that one. We had the lifting of POE 7, which means we have to scan underneath of POE 7 and top of POE 5 and POE 6. And we had the lifting of POE 8, all in the same week. So we also had to scan underneath of POE 8. So we had to scan underneath of POE 8, POE 7, and top of POE 5, POE 6. And we had to process further on the LQ and do the simulations of all of them. And we had to manage this, and we got basically 4 days. So we started like, okay, this is not possible. You can forget about it. 4 days, this amount of scans, forget it. How can we do this? Okay, we start as soon as we can, and we just walk around with people and everything. We know that not everything is going to be ready. Okay, piping guys, if you do install anything else, give us the 3D model and we will add that to the class check, basically. And then we need to do POE 7 right before lifting. We know that. We need to do POE 8 right before lifting. So 4 days on those 2, and we started on this one as soon as we could, because this is the landing area, and then everything that's installed, we just have to add after with a 3D model or something. So we had quite a challenging week, let's say it.
Yes.
So how many scanner stations do you use simultaneously?
Really depends on. Like POE 7, I think on POE 7 we had around 1,250 or 1,500 pipes going down between all of this. So you know by that saying that you need to cover all the pipes, basically.
Yeah.
So right there and then, and that one was also pretty close to the ground. So we didn't have the advantage of the length of the scans. So we had to do much more stations. Usually on a class check, I would say 25 to 30 stations should be enough. But then it's not full of piping and some supports and everything.
One sensor.
One sensor, just moving around. 25 to 30 stations, you know 100% you're not going to cover everything, so you see everything in detail, but you see enough. So we've been working on, me and Steinar, to try to divide the scans in 3 categories. Scan C, that is a typical clash check. You don't need too high of a detail. Scan B, where you have a little bit more support and pipes and everything. Okay, and then you have the simulation. Scan A, you need to be really accurate. So this is a plan we are working on, and we are still in evolving this in Stutt, basically.
Question. Obviously, you're matching the scan with the other module and trying to give a clash example. Would it have been smart, and I'm just asking, if you went to, because you produce these modules at different locations?
Yeah.
Would you have possibly saved time if you scanned it prior to shipment?
I did.
You did?
I went to Poland and did the scan of boat 3 it was.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're lifting it
Yeah, sure.
onto the boat or whatever that is transporting, right?
But it could be
And
means
then-
of vetting it to the design model.
Yeah, but then, so we did a scan when it was prefabricated.
Mm.
Check it to the design, that looks good. They ship it to us and they come to Stutt. And then you have placed up like 5 to 6 pipe racks around.
Mm.
And then you're putting the pole on top of that one. So you need to do a full scan again on the pipe racks, right?
Sure.
And then you're welding on the pipe racks. And then you are installing full of pipes. So you have to scan it before you lift it onto the model. So yes and no.
Mm.
We did it, and that was not enough because we did install so much before we lifted.
Mm.
So yes and no on that one.
Yeah, and sometimes we see that when we scan other locations, we try, but we know that when things are transported, there is, depending on the case, but most of the times there is then a deviation on the.
No, I appreciate the installation part, but I'm thinking perhaps if you found some deviations from the design model to the as-built prior to departure, that at least could have been fixed prior to
Definitely.
bringing.
Definitely.
Mm.
Yeah, like the SRUs, they were scanned before, and we know this is a block. This is not gonna move. So this we scanned, and we were very grateful that we actually had this already done, so it doesn't come on us.
Just to clarify this one, we had verifications of all of the posts where they were produced before they shipped it.
Yeah.
So we did have a verification against the design model and everything, and we also did scans on most of them.
Mm.
But once they are hanging, right?
Sure.
Once the crane hangs and the whole thing goes like this, yeah. Very good. So coordination, like you mentioned, there's a lot of disciplines when you are offshore in the rig, and you have to speak with the leaders. Like you say, it was 10,000 people working Valhall, Hugin. This is like a corridor in a shopping mall on Saturday, and so it's a lot to coordinate with the leaders. And the temporary objects, like I said, this is an actual case that we have to scan things like this, totally full, and we have to go around. And of course, this all moves, and when you scan, nothing can move.
And
So that
in this case specifically, we started scanning from the top, and we did level by level down. So it was a coordination because they were going to install the pipes up until they were going to drive it in. So the utility was supposed to drive in there, but they wanted to work until the day they were going to drive in. Okay, how can we solve that? We need to scan like as soon as they are installing. And they're going to remove from the top and down. So, okay, we have zones. So it was some coordination with all the disciplines, at least 10 minutes every day. When are you ready with everything there? Okay, good. We can come in there, capture the data. We just add it to the model and just process it. And then the next morning, when are you ready today? What is going to happen today, right? And then you basically work through the whole section. Yeah.
Yes, and then the fifth element is really, like Sigve is pointing out, is the data, right? We got really billions and billions of point clouds, and that's a lot of data to handle and to store and to process. Yes, and then the sail away is planned for.
September, October, November.
So we turn off the YouTube now.
I have to
Muted.
focus on the things you're doing here. So it's
Very
in the
good.
future somewhere.
So that was Hugin A. Are you ready for Valhall? We have Valhall, right? It's being built right next to UGNA, and we are basically using the laser scan potential for the same things. Steinar is leading that there, and Steinar has also using it for cutting purposes, like you see here in this picture. So he uses laser scanning for cutting the actual elements down to the millimeter.
I can also mention, as Mr. Blom saying here, this fast 7, this one section, that was with overlay, and it was completely scanned in Dubai. So I did all the calculation before it arrived. So I had already cut report for that, and they basically cut after my report taken from only scan.
Okay.
If you zoom in there now, you will be amazed to see the gap is evenly all the 30 meters. So it's working.
Yes. So
No, I'm all pro scanning. It's not my. I'm pro scanning, guys. So don't worry about that. It's just interesting to understand the time management that you actually use on a project like this.
Yeah. Good. I think we are way out of time now, so I'm gonna just pass it over. This is other things we use the scan for in AkerSolutions store.
On the floor or on the ground, and just leveling out the ground basically. So
Yeah. For
like explained.
the drive and yeah, it's something else. I'm not gonna do this. This was just more like a collage of the whole project so far. And yes.
Any more questions?
Any questions?
Since talking about millimeters, and you lifting heavy things,
Yep.
and they will deform.
Yep.
Heavy things will deform, especially when they're big. What do you have a model of how much you deform, or how do you calculate? How do you bring that into the lift calculation?
We have discussed it. Can we actually calculate, let's say, an ellipse or something? Because we know that if you can calculate the weight of the thing and where you're anchoring all the points and everything, you can basically calculate a theoretical ellipse on it. The time to do this before the lifting, we don't have. And you can kind of plan that we are going to install this volume of pipes, and then you can calculate the weight. But then you have some changes happening like a week before or something. Okay, we are focusing on this instead. And then you're basically back on ground again. So we have discussed it. We have not yet done it. But I do believe it's possible to do. But not in the time limit we have right now. So yeah.
Well, following on that point, if they're lifting it, it won't be stable enough to scan it. Because of removing.
But
So
that,
you'll lose all your tolerances anyway, you know.
yeah,
in predicting.
that's one thing that I'm actually, this is really interesting and related, I would say, because if you're going to calculate it, wouldn't it be fun to lift it and see if it is correct? But of course, you have all the weather, you have everything that's will affect it and everything, so you can probably estimate like, okay, when we scan it, we can have roughly this accuracy on it, right? So when we are just lifting or scanning everything, simulating and clash check and everything, and you lift it and you know this is going to wobble out. And then you're going to thread it down there somewhere. Okay, add in buffer zone. Let's say 100 millimeters. Everything within 100 millimeters, you need to let everyone know. And the construction guys can decide, I do not want to take this risk, we cut it. Or I would like to take the risk on this one. So you are following during the lower down. And if you see something is about to clash, then you cut it straight away and we stop the operation before you cut it, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's basically the solution for this.
Yeah, exactly. And are you using the design position for two modules to determine the clash? Because obviously the design position isn't the real position, it's just the design position.
Yeah, I would say like kind of like you use the design position on both of the clouds.
Yeah.
But it's scan versus scan. So in my opinion, as long as they are correctly, evenly rotated, it doesn't matter if they are pointing this way or this way. In my opinion. But we are using the design position because then we know exactly that.
Yeah, so you're using the same CRP for both point clouds, but that might not be the real connection position because how it lays when you've got hundreds of tons of weight compressing down. You're obviously doing all you can only control what you can control.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So yeah, you're using the design position, assuming that they've built it to the design position, which contractually within a few millimeters they should have done. But as you say, you get a big 1,000-ton thing and start moving it.
Yep.
It's not going to go together as it's planned to go together until it's settled. But you're obviously then trying to predict and provide an advanced analysis of, well, this is clearly going to clash. Cut it, if you know what I mean, from that point of view. So it's kind of best endeavors, isn't it?
But when you're talking about the simulations, then it gets interesting because you know it's not going down as correctly as we have measured it, right? Because everything was evenly supported. And you have like big beams going up, and you're gonna fit a big box onto that box, and it's a square versus a square.
Yeah.
And you know this beam is pretty heavy and it's falling a little bit down. This is out of tolerance. Let's say that. Maybe it's a little bit out in this way as well. But you know that you can pull it pretty easily. That's no problem dealing with this. It's harder to deal with this one, but you also have methods to deal with that. But then it's the question, is it too big or is it not too big? And that's up to the construction guys to actually say, yeah, we have the tools, we have the knowledge to actually lift it up a little bit, we can pull it and so on. So there is possibilities to actually adjust to get it to fit anyway. So, yeah.
And the advantage here was because this is it's kind of new in the system to do this. Many of these construction guys never used point clouds for the construction, right? This was new for them, and they saw it and they loved it, and they want to have it in everything all the time. And they were actually supporting us when we didn't just send the report, right? They would come to our desk and say, okay, this, you know what, this is going to bend down. It's not a problem. Or, you know, they would guide us to say, this is important to highlight. And we actually would simulate how it's going to go down together with them. So we would rotate the point cloud and simulate together with them. And they would guide us, okay, this is the point that we should focus on and rotate. So it was a bit of a lesson learned in the company, and I think everyone was quite pleased. Got very good results in the end.
But we are of course not done. This is a living project still. We still have a lot to think about and a lot of new methods and everything. And that's why it's interesting in coming together with other people, get other ones' opinions, and try to like gather. Okay, this is a good idea. This is okay, and so on. So yeah.
Anyone else?
So sorry. So point cloud is against the CAD model. I mean, the advantage of a point cloud, if you have an independent model, make all your measurements rather than design positions.
So we would use 90% of the cases point cloud versus point cloud. We would position the point cloud in the position of the model, and we would do that for both point clouds. And then we would discard the model and we would compare point cloud versus point cloud. How is the reality actually? Yeah. If we was short of time, we could do a pre-check. So we could do a one point cloud with the model, just to know, okay, this is for sure clashing. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, very good.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I guess that is it for us. Thank you all. Hello. So thank you for everyone who came here tonight, and again, thank you to all the sponsors, and thanks to everyone that is watching this live or at a later stage. Thank you.
Yes. guess there is a bar downstairs if you guys want to mingle networking. That's all great timing. There is
Food left on the tables, just
yeah,
finish that before you leave.
or we can just stay here, right? Odd?
Yeah, I think we can stay here as long as you want.
Yeah, we can